Recording in progress. Okay. Welcome everyone to the third session of council on this Monday, January 9th, 2023. In-person meetings have resumed with a hybrid format where members of council and the public can still join electronically via Zoom. The meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available on the township website. All rules apply to the meeting as if everyone was attending in person. And if there is a problem with technology impacting the proceedings of the meeting may be recessed at the direction of the mayor to confirm that the electronic format is performing effectively before proceeding further with the agenda. In the event of connection or service disruption to those attending electronically, the mayor may recess the meeting to allow for attempts to reconnect. So at this time, I will call the meeting to order. It's 7 p.m. And note that there was no closed meeting this evening before this open session. So please rise for the playing of the national anthem. Please be seated. We acknowledge that we are being hosted on ancestral lands of the Haudenosaunee, Mississauga, and Omamawinini peoples. Sorry. We acknowledge and welcome the presence of all Indigenous peoples, including Métis, Inuit, and other First Nations from across this vast land, who also makes this place home. The lands we are on today are recognized in the Two-Row Wampum, Dish with One Spoon Treaty, Treaty 27, and the Crawford Purchase. So at this time, the first 15 minutes of any regular council meeting will be set aside for open forum. Any individual may address council to voice opinion on subjects of municipal concern, excluding matters subject to public planning, to the public meeting, i.e. under the planning. Can only speak once and for no more than 3 minutes. Notice is hereby provided for both the open forum and public meetings that under the authority of the Municipal Act 2001 and in accordance with Ontario's Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, that all information provided for or at a public meeting, consultation, or other public process are considered part of the public record. In-person meetings have been resumed as mentioned in a hybrid format. where individuals can join electronically. Anyone wishing to speak at a council meeting can register in advance with the clerk or use the raise hand option if in the virtual audience and will be called upon by the chair. So we have, just for the virtual audience, I'll just let you know that we do have 2 registered speakers to speak first, and then we will open it to the virtual audience. So if you wish to speak, please use the raise hand feature, and you'll be ready to be brought back into the meeting and address council. So the first one is Heather Muir. Please come up, state your name, address, and then provide information. There will be a stopwatch on the screen, and I just ask that we watch it and wrap up accordingly so that you're able to finish your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Heather Muir. I live at 168 Prune Crescent. We are presenting new data and asking you to pass a motion to instruct Loyalist Township staff to find a solution, increasing and stabilizing the water pressure in our neighborhood. One of the basic hydraulic engineering principles is that the water pressure at any location in an area must decrease as the topological elevation increases. Please keep this fact in mind. This table, which is on your screen, shows various locations in Bath with their elevations and their water pressure as measured by township staff. If you look at the graph generated from this table, you will clearly see the inconsistencies. It seems that the water pressures between the Academy Street Water Creek and Academy Street Church Street intersections increase as the elevation increases. This is against any hydraulic engineering principle. Not only that, the water pressure values seem erratic, going up and down as the elevations increase. During the August meeting with Loyalist Township staff, we asked the consultant, Mr. Mark Buchanan, whose company developed the modeling, to explain this anomaly. His response was, "I do not know. I do not have an answer now. I will get back to you." We gave him a copy of the graph and contact information. It has been over 4 months. There has been no response from him. At the same time, we asked one of the staff members the same question. Her response was, "Send us the data to review." We mentioned to her that this is their own data. She ignored it. No one responded to the questions because they do not have a plausible answer. We believe there are 3 possible reasons for this anomaly. 1, there is a pump at those areas to boost the water pressure. 2, the modeling is inaccurate or deficient. 3, the water pressure tested by the staff is inaccurate. During the August meeting, a staff engineer told us there is no booster pump in the area. That leads us to conclude that either the modeling or testing or both are not reliable. We believe Loyalist Township staff are aware of this, and that is why they introduced the idea of installing Neptune water meters, knowing that this would buy time in order to introduce a misleading report to the new council. Regarding the Neptune water meters, the fact is that Neptune never claimed that the water meters will increase pressure or flow, as you read in the manufacturer's literature emailed to Mr. Mayor and to our township council. Also, there is an article in Environmental Science and Engineering magazine issued December 2022 with the following excerpt from page 60. Neptune's meters, quote, will be able to transmit residential and commercial water consumption automatically. City vehicles will no longer have to conduct drive-by reads for the meters. This will enhance near real-time water consumption information, unquote. Again, nothing is mentioned about increasing water pressure or flow. Our community is hurting and requests you pass a motion to instruct Loyalist Township staff to increase our water pressure and make the water supply stable without significant variations in pressure. It's been nearly a year. You promised to take the first step. Nothing has changed. Please give this your support and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
Any questions?
During open forum, we just receive. It's not a conversation back and forth. We receive the information and then we take it.
Okay, because previously I've been asked to remain in case there were questions.
Yes, during delegations, yes.
Thank you.
During open forum, it's a little different format. The next speaker is Dave Bryant. Yes. Please say thing, please present your name, your address, and then provide us with the.
My name is Dave Bryant. I live at 172 Pruen Crescent in the East End, also the water problem. We've been there 36 years plus, never had a water problem. My neighbor across the street, 47 years, has never had a water problem until the pressures were reduced. Now we have lots of water problems. And in fact, I'd like to read this. I challenge all of you to turn your tap down to half next time you're in the shower, so you can see what we have now. Turn your main shut off to half and leave it there for a week or 2 weeks and see how your equipment in your house functions with half the water pressure. I challenge you to do that because that's where we're at. The real truth is changing our water pressure service was not necessary at all. Even though our pressure was at the top end of the legal level, it was still legal. There was no need to even touch it. Contrary to Ms. Merritt told everybody that they had to do it because of possible pipes breaking, leakage, etc. A whole stream of stuff that was going to happen. We're almost 50 years and not one problem. So what's she talking about that pressure was going to blow up in our face, or our houses were going to blow apart with the water? It was quite clear that we were not told about this at the time. We received a message that said, your water's going off for 4 hours. Could that person not have said, your water's going off for 4 hours, and by the way, we're going to cut your water pressure down over 45%. Didn't say it. Then they apologized, and by the way, apology not accepted. That was just pure and simple bad business. Whoever made that statement, whoever represented staff to make that statement, could have simply put why they were doing it. But no, they wanted to do it and then let us complain. Okay. I've done tests. I sent you all a copy of my meter. In a 24-hour period, I had a 27 pounds per square inch variance in my home. That means you flush a toilet, it drops 27 pounds upstairs. I did a test before I came here tonight with one that is exactly parallel to my water test in the basement. It dropped 15 pounds to the toilet that's on the other side of the wall as soon as I flushed the toilet. You voted there was no further action required. I challenge you to set up a committee, 4 persons from the East End, 2 people from staff, 2 counselors. Let's review this. Let's fix it because it's not right. It is totally not right. Have a good day. Let me know what you think because I really think it needs to be fixed. If you want us to fill the room again,
Your time is up.
if you want us to fill the room again, we'll bring the people in.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the chambers that wishes to speak? Council. 8 seconds, 8 seconds over. Seeing none, we'll go to the virtual audience. Is there anyone in the virtual audience that wishes to speak this evening? Please use the raise hand feature. Seeing none, that concludes the open forum. The next item is public meeting and notices of public meeting. So we'll be holding a public meeting. If being held, consider the following amendment to the comprehensive zoning bylaw 2001-38 as amended, draft plan of common elements condominium and a draft plan of subdivision in accordance with provisions of section 3412 and 5120 of the Planning Act RSO 1990. The proposed amendments apply to a property that fronts Loyalist Boulevard and County Road 7, Church Street, and is described as part lot 10, concession 1. The proposed draft plan of common elements condominium is to create a common elements condominium, which will include the private roads, visitor parking, open space, and an underground stormwater storage tank. The commercial and residential blocks will share a common driveway from Loyalist Boulevard and internal driveway within the property. The proposed draft plan of subdivision consists of 13 townhouse blocks comprised of 1 5-unit block, 5 3-unit blocks, 7 4-unit blocks, for a total of 48 residential townhouse units. 1 commercial block, 3 blocks for reserve, and 1 block for a common elements condominium. Once the subdivision is registered, the individual townhouse portions will be created through part lot control. The proposed amendments to the Loyalist Township zoning bylaw 2001-38, as amended, if approved, will affect the property, and upon coming into force and effect, will amend the zoning for a residential type 5 exception 4 holding zone and the shopping center commercial exception 8 holding zone to address a number of site-specific performance standards to facilitate the development of a commercial plaza and a 48 townhouse unit common elements condominium. Council shall hear in person or by his or her counsel, solicitor or agent, any person who claims to be affected by this application. So before we open to the public, do staff have a presentation or any information they wish to share at this time?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, we have the applicant's agent, Ms. Lorelei Jones, is in the audience to make a brief presentation.
Very well. Yes, there's Ms. Jones. If you come on screen and turn your mic on. Okay, we can see you now, so please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Lorelei Jones. I'm a planning consultant with Macaulay Shomi Housen, and I'm acting on behalf of Caitlin Corporation, which owns the subject lands. I'm just going to share a screen to assist with my presentation. Can everyone see the screen now?
Yes.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I also want to mention that Devin Daniel of Caitlin Corporation is available to answer questions as well. So the property that we're dealing with is located at the southwest corner of Loyalist Boulevard and Church Street. It's outlined in red on the map that's in front of you. And so you can see it is part of the Loyalist Estates golf course community. It's an 18-hole golf course in Bath. And so the surrounding land uses that we're dealing with are single detached homes on the west side of the property. We have townhouses to the north. We have open space land to the south that has been dedicated to the municipality for park purposes. And then the lands on the east side of Church Street are currently being farmed and have a water course and some wetlands there as well. So as the mayor mentioned, we're proposing 48 townhouses within this area of the development. And we also have a commercial plaza that would contain 998 square meters of plaza. As also mentioned, it will be developed by way of common elements condominium. So in terms of the access, there will be a joint commercial and residential access onto Loyalist Boulevard. And there will also be a second access onto Church Street south of Loyalist Boulevard. So the intent is, with respect to those, that there will be reciprocal blanket easements between the commercial and the residential uses to facilitate that access. The property is currently designated both medium density residential, which is the orange color with the dots on it on the screen, as well as commercial, which is the red and white patch property that you're seeing on the screen. The residential designation permits townhouses and permits a density up to 75 units per hectare. The overall residential development that's being proposed is well within that at 18.9 units per net hectare. And the commercial designation permits the kinds of uses that are being proposed with the small commercial plaza that's proposed on the corner. The site, as mentioned, is currently zoned both a commercial C4, which is a shopping center zone, and an R5-4, which is a residential zone. So the C4 zone is an exception number 8, and what exception 8 currently does is to restrict the range of commercial uses so that they're less than a standard shopping center use, but they include a variety of uses such as a bake shop, a bank, offices, daycare, drugstore, dry cleaning, eating establishment, medical, clinic, outdoor cafe, personal service shop, public use, retail, commercial, and of course a shopping center. And then the R5 zone-4 that's currently there permits triplexes, fourplexes, townhouses, and low-rise apartments. And so does permit the residential use, the townhouses that are being provided. Some of the changes that are being proposed to the rezoning are to the actual zone provisions. And I'm going to talk about those a little bit further in a few minutes. So as mentioned, we're proceeding by 2 means. One is a draft plan of subdivision, which is creating the 13 blocks for townhouses that will ultimately result in 48 units. And then we're also creating the block for the commercial, as well as there will be the common elements block as well. So then the plan of condominium, when you look at it, has this area here, which is the roadway access, and then we have a small area in here which has for some visitor parking as well as a small open space area. So the intent is that once the subdivision is registered and the townhouses are built, then we will come in with part lot control to create the individual townhouse units or parcels of tied land in terms of the condominium. With respect to the development itself, we had an engineering report that was provided that looked at the servicing of the site. There is adequate water and sanitary sewer capacity available to service the development in the allocation that's owned by Caitlin, which will be transferred to this site. There are water and sanitary sewers existing along Loyalist Boulevard, and those will be extended to each of the homes being built as well as to the commercial plaza. The stormwater runoff will be addressed through an on-site underground stormwater management chamber system that can control the outlet and deal with up to a 100-year storm. A traffic impact study was prepared by WSP to address proposed development of Loyalist Country Club Estates. It was a study that dealt with a much larger area than just this site, but it did include these lands, and it addressed the capability of the roads to accommodate the traffic and indicated that the level of service at the intersection of Loyalist Boulevard and County Road 7/Church Street would operate at a level of service B in 2028, and that no mitigation measures were required, such as traffic signals or new turning lanes at that particular intersection. We also had a natural feature characterization report that was prepared by an environmental consulting firm known as GEI Savanta. The report indicates that there is eastern meadowlark habitat that's occurring on the site and that compensation is required to remove it. So the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks has established a process for providing that compensation through a permit process. So we will be dealing with that permit process to address the province's requirements. There was also a noise impact study that was prepared to address the proposed development. It indicated that with respect to the residential units that are going to be adjacent to Loyalist Boulevard and County Road 7, that forced air heating systems would be required so that those units could put in air conditioning if required, and also registration on title with respect to that notification. With respect to the commercial block, the report indicated they didn't expect that there would be any significant noise impacts based on the standard rooftop HVAC equipment that's typically used for this type of commercial building. So in terms of what's being proposed for the changes to the commercial zoning, we are asking for a reduction in the minimum lot frontage from 60 meters down to 59 meters. And that's being done because what we have done with respect to the proposed development and the draft plan of subdivision and so on is that we tried to respect the boundaries of the existing commercial zone that's on the property right now. So we've reduced the minimum lot frontage, and we have also reduced the minimum lot area from 0.5 hectares to 0.45 hectares. We have asked for a slight increase in the maximum lot coverage from 25% to 25.7%, and that's to allow for a covered patio on the property. And then we are asking for a reduced planting strip between the commercial and the residential component from 3 meters to 2 meters. With respect to the proposed residential zoning, we are asking for a few changes as well. Most of those relate to side yard setbacks. So with respect to a side yard setback adjacent to a public road, it's normally a 6 meter setback. We are requesting 5.74 meters adjacent to Loyalist Boulevard. The reason for that is that when you look at the blocks that are being created, the townhouse lots, a number of them are not rectangular because of the shape of the lot not being rectangular, the overall block, I mean, not being rectangular. So we have some lot lines that are not sort of square to the house that's being proposed. So while there is a reduction in this side yard setback at the narrowest point, the majority of that lot will in fact exceed the minimum 6 meter exterior side yard requirements. There is also a requirement for a 6 meter exterior side yard setback for the private roads, and we are asking that be reduced to 2.55 meters. Those roads will have obviously much less traffic and activity going on them than a public road would. With respect to the minimum interior side yard setback, we're requesting a reduction from 2 meters to 1.53 meters. That still allows for sufficient room for access between the properties and for building code requirements with respect to windows on the side yard setbacks and those kinds of things. And then the last thing that we're asking for with respect to changes in zoning for the residential component is an increase in the maximum lot coverage from 40% to 53%. What I want to indicate is this maximum lot coverage applies to each individual townhouse lot that's being created. And so we actually have a fairly wide range of lot coverages that's happening, again, because a number of the lots are not rectangular. So the coverage that's being proposed ranges anywhere from the 25% to 53%. And the average lot coverage is 42.1%. So fairly close to what is typically used for this kind of development. Part of the reason for the increase in the lot coverage is that we are proposing to develop bungalows, which obviously typically require a little bit more lot coverage than a 2-story unit would. And we note that the requested lot coverage is in line with other exceptions that have been permitted within the township. So that is my brief overview of what's being proposed, and I am happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. If when you get an opportunity, if you can stop sharing the screen, then that will bring everyone back on for the council members. Thank you. Council, any questions for Ms. Jones? Seeing none, thank you very much for the presentation. We'll move to the open meeting. So is there anyone in chambers which wishes to speak to this proposed development through the open meeting? Seeing none, is there anyone in the virtual meeting which wishes to speak to this item? None? So, Deputy?
I move to receive the report, the presentation from the proponent, and adopt the recommendation.
Recommendation. So moved. Seconded by Councillor Product. Deputy, any comment? Seconder,
Comment.
anyone else? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion is passed. Confirmation of the agenda. Just check to make sure there are any additions or modifications to the agenda as presented.
Your worship, just for the meeting at the end, there's no committee adjustment for that will be done under the meetings.
Okay. I'll try to remember to make note of that when the time comes. Thank you. So with that, could I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? Moved by Councillor Willis, seconded by Councillor Ennis. Any comments from anyone? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. There's no delegations, adoption of the minutes. Minutes for Monday, December 12th. Any errors or omissions noted from council?
Point of order, you got a declaration of pecuniary interest.
I did. Thank you. I'll just back up then and ask, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, thank you. Now we will go back to the adoption. Any errors or omissions noted? Seeing none, we have a motion to adopt the minutes. Deputy, so moved. Councillor Budrick, seconded. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Corporate Services Department, Election Accessibility Report. Staff, is there any additional information that you wish to provide at this time?
Sorry,
Director?
sorry, no, nothing to add, your worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions regarding this? Councillor Pryor.
I don't know if this is part of the report, but I just had a couple of questions just on the whole accessibility. Looking at the numbers, so basically 3/4 of the people voted online. I'm wondering if staff at some point would come up with an idea of how much it costs per ballot cast. And where do we see it going the next election? Because I see a generational switch where the numbers keep climbing and climbing to the point where at some point a council will have to make a decision to go, I think 100% electronic. But just I'm interested in the cost and like I said, where do we see it going down the road? And just as an aside, I'm pleased that the one person a number of meetings ago brought forward some of the ideas if for the residents in homes, and that, you know, how do we integrate that to down the road? That's it.
Thank you. Do you want to address that, Director, or would you rather I do? Okay, this is only for the accessibility of the elections, and there's another report that will come later, which is a summary and also lessons learned and next steps taken. And I believe the two items that you asked about will be addressed in that future report that's coming. Am I online?
That's correct, your worship.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none. We have a motion or a recommendation before us. Do we have a mover? Councillor Bluder, so moved. Seconded by Councillor Pryor. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Interim tax levy filing. Just check with staff to see if there's any additional information to share with council.
Nothing to add, your worship, but staff is available, the treasurer is available for questions. Sorry.
Very good. Any questions for the treasurer or for staff from council? Seeing none. We have a recommendation. Do we have a mover? Seeing Deputy Mayor, so moved. Seconded by Councillor Wells. Any comments? Mover, seconder, none. Anyone else? Councillor Pryor.
Just a general comment. Is this communicated through the billing cycle with the mailings that come out websites? I know that many of the councillors who were on the last council remember there was quite a kerfuffle, to use the word, over a anticipated tax rate that got out in the community as 4 or 5% that never happened, but just that we communicate that, you know, what I read here in the report in some kind of format that the residents can understand that it's not a, you know, what it is and how it plays out. Because I think that was, in what I heard around election time, was people just need to know. And we all understand inflation and so on, but just that it's communicated back to me.
Thank you. Staff? You have a comment for that?
Yeah, through your worship. I think what you're referring to, Councillor Broderick, is the pre-authorized payment people that are signed up for that on taxes, because we have to estimate what the projected increases be because we started taking them out in January. So I know in the past there has been confusion where we say we're projecting and we increase that estimate 5%. That's caused miscommunication in the past. So I think that's what you're referring to. The interim tax levy bylaw is just 50% of last year's. And that's just for a cash flow point of view. So that's broken up over 2 payments. And that's just to give us the authorization to charge that interim until we pass budget and get the new rates and all that. Which will come in June. But
Fair enough, but just again, the communication, I'm not aware, like I didn't think to bring that to my attention,
Yeah.
but I'm sure there's lots of taxpayers out there that
yeah, that's
see the
something.
interim and then all of a sudden it's like.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
So if I may just follow up on that, just to ensure there's some clarification, just to confirm with staff, once this passes and the interim taxes can be issued, typically there's social media notifications and things like that so that people are aware of what is happening. Am I correct on that?
For this, yeah, and on the statement, I'll explain that it's 50% of last year's levy.
Okay,
So it's whatever your levy requirement in 2022 was, it's 50% of that broken up into the 2 payments.
okay.
And that's all on the bill. Yeah.
And that comes with the statement.
The statement, yes.
Perfect, thank you. Any other comments? At the mover, the seconder, everybody spoke, okay. Way through. In that case, I will call a question. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion is passed. Fairfield Goodside House refurbishment. Staff, is there any additional information for council's consideration?
Nothing for you.
Thank you. Council, any questions for council or for our staff before we look at a motion? Councilor Pryor.
Just a couple of quick ones. I want your clarification on just an idea of when you talk rentals and special events, are those specifically township events, or are residents able to rent, whether it's the property around or the building for events? Just clarify that for me.
Through your worship, we're talking specifically township events. But this property could be added to as rental once the work has been completed. If council wishes, that would be looked at and brought forward in our our miscellaneous fees bylaw.
Okay,
Yes.
through you. A second question. I know under the Heritage Act that Let me find my notes here, just the accessibility options, I'm just wondering, where are we at, like, do you see an accessible building to some extent? I know it's not a mandate under the Heritage Act, but just curious about that.
Through you, your worship, where we can make it accessible, we will, without having to, make changes like that we can't make under the trust. The beauty of this project is that, accessible washrooms are available at the Discovery Center right next door if they needed to, that's accessible to the outside. There is as I said, where we can make it accessible, we will.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff prior to the motion? Seeing none, we have a recommendation before us. Do we have a mover? Councillor Broderick, so moved. Seconded by Councillor Willis. Any further comments from the mover? Seconder? Anyone else? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion has passed. Fence bylaw amendments. Any additional information from staff?
No, your worship, but as you can see, Mr. Parkinson, the chief building official, is here to answer any question council may have.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions prior to getting a motion? Councillor Willis.
Your worship, to staff. Loyalist Township has one of the highest concentrations in North America of dry stone walls, so this caught my eye, and I'm a bit concerned about a 10-meter setback because it's more of a setback than I've seen on any of the stone walls that I've experienced. I'm just wondering why that 32-foot 9-inch setback was chosen, and is it consistent with other municipalities who have specifically identified stone walls in a fence bylaw?
Parkinson.
For you, your worship, 10 meters was chosen as a compromise between townships that outright ban stone walls and other townships that have up to a 25-meter setback. We've also mitigated that within the bylaw by saying the setback could be, the setback of the stone wall could be the setback from the property line for other structures. So if it's a 3-meter setback for a house, it would be 3 meters for the stone wall as well. So a stone wall would not be required to be behind a house in some cases. None of the stone walls currently built would be affected by this at all. That's built right into the bylaw and has been there for quite a while under provision. In second, have marked it for you. Provision 6, this bylaw does not apply to any fence that was lawfully erected prior to the date of the passage of the bylaw.
Question?
Yes.
Through you, your worship, a follow-up to that on section 6. So what's the definition of lawfully erected and how is that determined?
If it exists on this date, I would assume it is lawfully erected, unless we have been apprised of the fact that it has not been lawfully erected. Bylaws are enforced on complaints. We do not proactively go out and look for fences or buildings that are erected illegally. We happen upon them, we will deal with them, because once we've seen it, we cannot unsee it. But we do not go out looking for them.
Yes. Please proceed.
Thank you. Through your worship again. So it does in section 6, it says that the bylaw does not apply to a fence except that any changes to such fence, except for maintenance, after the day of passage of the bylaw shall be subject to the provisions of the bylaw. So the way stone fences are often repaired is they're taken apart and rebuilt in the same location. I'm just concerned that an ancient stone fence in the township that needs to be repaired would run into someone being overzealous in reading the bylaw, and that stone fence would not be able to be repaired. And also I was wondering if you could speak to what the building permit requirements would be in future for people building dry stone or stone fences.
Your worship, under our building bylaw, if a structure exists within 5 years of it being demolished, it can be rebuilt on the foundation. I would apply that to the fence bylaw as well. That if it, and if you can prove that the fence was there, we would have no problem with it being rebuilt in the same location. I am aware of how the stone fences are built, and stone walls are built. I've been on the island when they are being built recently, and there's several groups in Dakota have been to Topsy Farms for their workshops. So I am aware of them. The process is very long, very labored, and we would make the inspectors aware that the fence was being repaired, and to just be aware of it and not to interrupt the process. We do not require permits for fences. We found this to be something that deters people from asking questions about fences where they should be located. And it really has never paid for the inspector's time anyway. First time we send an inspector out, it costs more than the permit would generate for the township.
Councilor Willis?
Through your worship, I'm sorry to be that person, but section 2J says that the chief building official for Loyalist Township shall issue a permit certifying approval of the location and design of all fences and pools. So is that only fences that are around pools?
Through your worship, that only applies to pool fences.
Okay.
Because we do not actually issue permits for pools, we only issue for the enclosure.
Thank you.
That address your concerns, Councilor Willis? It answered your questions. Okay, thank you. Any other questions prior to looking at a motion? Seeing none, I'll scroll back up to the top again. We do have a recommendation before us. Do we have a motion to put forward? Councilor Booher.
Move as and pass as written.
So moved, seconded by Councilor Ennis. Mover, any comments? Seconder? Anyone else? Councilor Willis.
I'm not going to support the motion as it is because I'm uncomfortable that the language around the stone fences is vague and is open for interpretation. If we were to get future staff members that weren't as positive towards stone fences as the writer is. So I will not be supporting it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from council? Deputy.
Through you, your worship, to Councilor Willis, would there be any possibility of friendly amendments for any particular reports to shore up the language of concern for you in future?
Through you, your worship. I don't know who would be considered friendly. What would make me happy is if section 4B were put aside from the bylaw for now, and that staff bring about a report that has more detail on how other municipalities have handled stone fences and the requirements around them for future amendment to this bylaw.
For you, sir, I would consider that friendly.
Okay, seconder? It is friendly, apparently.
Thank you.
So just looking at staff. Will be removed, if this goes through the way it stands, the stone fence portion only would be omitted. And once the report comes back with what Councillor Wallace has mentioned, the bylaw could be brought back to be updated again. Is that clear? Director?
If I could, Your Worship,
Yes.
I think it probably would be better to defer the entire bylaw for now, because just removing 4B at this point, we'd have to look through the bylaw to see if it impacts. So it's probably better that we defer the whole thing and come back with the report and then put it on the table again.
Okay, thank you. So,
Motion to defer, sir.
motion to defer. And it's been a while since I've had one to defer. I need a seconder on that, right? Yes, do I have a second? Councillor Crawford. And motion to defer has no discussion, so I call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion has passed. Bedcock Mills subdivision phase 4. Lots 1 through 25, lot control request. Staff, is there any additional information on this item?
To Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, any questions prior to a motion? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation before us. We wish to proceed. Do we have a mover? Councillor Willis. So moved. Seconded by Councillor Budrich. Any comments from the mover? Seconder? Anyone else? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Position of McPherson Park, Algonquin and Lakeshore Catholic District School Board. Any additional information from staff for council to consider?
Through Your Worship, not at this time, but we have the author of the report here that, and myself as well, that can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. So, council, do we have any questions for staff prior to a motion? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation. Do we have a motion? Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I move to receive the report and adopt recommendations 1 through 4, and I have an adjustment to number 2, if I may read that out. That number 2 read, council authorized staff to enter into negotiations for the sale of the subject lands to the Algonquin and Lakeshore Catholic District School Board and return to council with the proposed conditions of sale.
Okay, and that's why number 5 would be omitted then. Okay, thank you. So moved. Do we have a second? Councillor Ennis. You wish to speak to it, member?
Only that I think this course of action allows staff to do their work and give us an opportunity for what I think is a financially prudent step for our taxpayers in this process, and hopefully council can make a further decision when staff come back.
Thank you. Seconder, any comments?
Just echo the deputy's comments.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? And I just have a question through the staff. If I remember correctly, there's a time frame for the school board, but I guess if this comes back to council, we should still be able to meet those timeframes. And be able to proceed with the school board. On this, am I correct, or?
So through you, your worship, timeframe per se, it's a preference. The school board would like to have shovel in the ground this summer.
Okay,
So there is some time, it all depends how quickly we can get through a negotiation and then come back to council.
okay. Thank you. So I called for comments, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion has passed. Pre-budget approval and award negotiable request for proposals. Up to staff, are there any additional information for council's consideration?
Through your worship, no.
You? Council, any questions for staff prior to the motion? Seeing none. We have a recommendation. Councillor Broderick.
I would move to accept the recommendations as outlined in the report. That's FR 2234.
Thank you. So moved, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any comments from the mover?
Just the, infrastructure buildings that the sooner we get at it, we can get at it, the better, given the way inflation's running these days. It'd be nice to get ahead of something like this.
Thank you. Seconder, any comment? Anyone else? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Communication for consideration. Right item here. So we have a request from the Amherst Island Men's Society. And staff are looking for direction. Are there any questions for staff before we introduce the motion?
Through you, your worship. I think that the request is quite reasonable, but does it put us in a difficult position with any other groups that may have had the same situation?
Staff, does anyone have a comment on that? And if not, the previous chairs, I guess, I believe we've had similar requests in the past, have we not? Councillor Budrick.
We have, but generally these have been going through the Renewable Energy Grant Fund. I know the last year we approved something very similar for the Village of Bath for baskets and things like that through that funding.
So it went through the committee first and then came back to council for a final approval. Okay. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, and Mr. Treasurer, can correct me if I'm wrong, but under the renewable energy vibrancy policy, we rolled in the community grant within the vibrancy money, so it would be coming out of there because traditionally it was applied through the community grant.
Okay. So if I'm Ms. Tebow.
Through you, your worship. So this has been an approved grant through the Renewable Energy Community Grant Program. So what they're asking for is to use the funds to create more baskets instead of its intended purpose within the grant. And under the policy, they are to come to council for approval for such a request.
Okay. So it's a little different than what we've dealt with before. Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Broderick.
I know that I sit on, I don't know which one are we on, like 3? Community grant?
Yeah, previously you were on 2.
So I guess my question is it's been approved, but like the forms and stuff that, this is just a letter. I'm just wondering, are we setting it up so that anybody can just write a letter and get it? Staff, and I know that the deadline for the next one is the end of the month, I believe. So is this is the previous one not coming up, right? So it's already been approved, it just needs council approval.
That's how I understand it. Is that my correct? That this is just an extension or a reassignment of some funds from a previous allotment?
That's correct, yes, it's already been issued, they just want to reallocate it.
Okay. Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, we have the request before us. And entertain a motion. Councillor Willis.
Thank you, Your Worship. Move to receive the correspondence and approve the request.
So moved, seconded by Councillor Booth. Any comments from the mover?
No, this group does great work on the island, so I'm sure the money will be well spent.
Yes. Thank you. Seconder?
Just one thing, if it was to come forward saying that it was pre-approved already by the Ward 1 committee, that would have been great, just for a better understanding. But other than that, no, I fully support it as well.
Thank you. Any other comments from members of council? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion is passed. Notice of motion or direct motion? Do we have any notice of motion or direct motion this evening? Seeing none, consent agenda. For the purpose of convenience and for expediting meetings, matters of business that are of repetitive or routine nature are included in the consent agenda. And all such matters of business contained in the consent agenda are voted on collectively. A particular matter of business may be singled out from the consent agenda for debate or for a separate vote upon the request of any council. In the case of a separate vote, the excluded matter of business is severed from the consent agenda. Each and every matter of business contained in the consent agenda is recorded separately in the minutes of the meeting. So I'll start with, are there any items any council member wishes to extract?
I just want to ask a question. Can I, 21-1, I just want to ask a question. Does that mean I have to extract it?
No, we can receive them. We can take the motion and then you can speak to any of them.
Okay, thanks.
None extracted?
Move to accept.
Okay, so moved. Seconded by Deputy Mayor. Councillor Project.
If I could just ask a general question on 21-1. You list in the report, it lists a series of tax write-offs. What, in general sense, what's the majority of the things that are written off in the township?
Yeah, the name, sorry, through your worship, it's write-offs might be a bit of a misunderstanding. It's adjustments to the tax roll that impact provides us throughout the year. So a lot of times it's reassessments and things like that may go back a couple of years, and that's generally through any change in property or people that appeal their original assessments.
Thank you.
Any other, so mover, seconder, any comments? Anyone else? Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion is passed. Updates from members appointed to county council, committees, or local boards. Are there any members that have attended meetings that wish to update council? Councillor Braddock.
I attended the last meeting of Conservation Authority, and the AGM for that is coming up on January 25th, and it's available online if anyone is interested in taking part or viewing it.
Thank you. Any other members? Deputy Mayor.
Through your worship, just to apprise council that since our last meeting, we had our first inaugural meeting of county council of the county of Lennox and Addington, and council appointed Henry Hogg of Addington Highlands as warden and John Wise as deputy warden for this next year.
Thank you. Any other updates or points of information? Seeing none. Members' privilege. Is there any items that council members wish to bring forward at this time under members' privilege? Councillor Broderick.
Thank you. just wish to acknowledge that, the holiday skating schedule that was, developed with the OPG Brooklyn Fine Homes and Papa's Pizza providing the funding to pay for it was greatly attended. I was there for one session and there was nobody else going on the ice who was doing it there. And I also, just bring to everyone's attention a couple of things. The chance to talk with some of the arena staff after watching the incident that happened in the NFL last week. And pleased to hear that they've recently been received their training or their update on use of the defibrillator and CPR. And I think it's good to know, and that the community should know that they're available if such an incident may occur. That's it. Thank you. Oh, one other thing. The bylaw enforcement officer does come around, and they do come to councilors' front door and knock on the doors, and it was good. It's a exchange, very pleasant. Meeting my wife is a very pleasant conversation, and just to let people know that they are out there and they are asking questions. And even on New Year's Eve, when your son has all his friends over, don't park across the sidewalk. Thank you.
Thank you. That might be one of my pet peeves, so I apologize, but not really, I guess. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I'd just like to take this opportunity to remember the life of Laurie Simpson, who was a farmer in this community, a very well-respected farmer and individual. Definitely a friend of Amherst Island. He pastured cattle on Amherst Island for many years. There wouldn't be a beef farmer around here that hadn't met Laurie, and so we pass condolences to his wife and to his two daughters and to his father, Clark.
Thank you. Yes. That impacted the community greatly. Thank you. Councillor Blueberry.
Yeah, unfortunately, through you, sir. Remembering the passing of a friend that I consider a friend, someone I met in high school, passed away last week. Former Amherst Island radio host, Derek Wagger, lifelong friend, kind of gone astray the last decade or so, but passing at 52 is far too young, and his partner, his ex-wife, his daughter, and friends definitely miss.
Thank you. Anyone? Councillor Parks. I've been trying to watch that square.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great, thanks. I just wanted to do a shout out to the community volunteers that put on the Christmas Day dinner and supported our community for the less fortunate and possibly people that didn't have family to go to. Unfortunately, due to the storm, it was postponed and it was held, I believe, New Year's Day, and it was well attended and very much appreciated by the residents.
Thank you. Any other items to be brought forward? Councillor Willis.
I may be stealing yours or the Deputy Mayor's thunder, but I just wanted to say thank you to the staff that are on the emergency control group and the people who worked so tirelessly on the 23rd to the 28th of December, the emergency services, the roads crews, and the ferry crews who slept all night on the boat to make sure that it stayed tied to the dock. So thanks to all of them. I was safe and warm inside my house, and can't appreciate enough the work that was done over those few days.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
I propose to follow up with that, the council gives staff a round of applause. Your Worship.
Absolutely. The only reason for the pause is because I wanted to say something. I didn't know whether to say it before or after, but I'll follow up. And I'll come back to see if anyone else on council wants to add. With the state of emergency, I want to thank the emergency control group. It's pretty incredible to all of a sudden call a meeting on Friday afternoon and then end up tying up everybody all through Christmas. The control group was engaged and very active and did an excellent job mitigating the impacts of the storm. I also want to thank all of the staff, as has been mentioned, that worked tirelessly and on their time off. They came in and worked through their vacation, through their stat holiday, to make sure they knew the storm was too big for a park crew, so they showed up and worked. And I think that speaks volume for the staff that did that. It was amazing. Because of that, we weathered the storm relatively well. We were able to keep emergency services moving. We kept them busy all night, but they kept moving and able to care for the residents. And it covered almost every division of staff to be able to mitigate the storm, whether it's on the road, at the utilities, the ferry, which put up with the storm and the wind. And it was amazing the number that were able to carry out what they did in conditions such as that. So it was amazing to have it happen. And I guess my final is to council, who ended up in another state of emergency. The former mayor may have messaged me and said, sure, you had to have one too, didn't you? But it was, I'm really thankful that council endorsed, accepted, and worked with us to make sure that everything was addressed. It was a great team effort. So with that, is there any other items from council? Carol, I missed the swear this time.
I just wanted to follow up with what the mayor was commenting about staff. That was wonderful that everybody pulled together to get us through that. Also, I think we should have a shout out to a lot of our residents that helped all out their neighbors with snow shoveling, plowing driveways, snow blowing driveways out and sidewalks and things like that to help out the other residents that were not able to do so.
Thank you. Yes. And simply for the residents staying off the road so the plows can keep working, that made a huge difference in the outcome. Yes. Any other items? I just have one final one to the family of Bob McBride, local Odessa resident that passed away. Long time member of the Odessa Lions Club, the Antique and Classic Car Club, and also a local business owner for over 34 years, I believe it is. So just condolences to his family. And with that, confirmatory button. Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
I was going to adopt a confirmatory button.
So moved, seconded by Councilor Booth. All in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is carried. Upcoming meeting dates, as was mentioned, and I just not put my screen. As was mentioned, no committee of adjustment on February 6th. We have no applications. We do have a committee of the whole for budget that night. Again on the 9th. Regular council on the 13th, and again budget on the 16th. So with that, could I have a motion to adjourn? Council, oh, sorry. Yes.
30 point now.
We just need to set a date in March for our standard of care training so that we can pass that on for utilities department.
Okay. Do you want us to actually pick a date tonight, or just everyone send in? How do you want to handle it? Is there a proposed date, or do you want us to provide our calendars?
If you can provide us dates that work outside of the other dates in already scheduled for other meetings, if you want to provide us with some dates on that, then we can provide that to utilities on setting them.
Okay, so if all council members can do that within the next couple of days, that would be great, and we will set the date. Thank you for bringing that forward. So now, take a quick scan of the room. I'll go for a motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Wells. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.